Shabbat Shalom, and welcome to Lechu Niranana. Lechu Niranana, come, let us join in joy, is a opportunity for spiritual seekers on Shabbat morning to join together by live stream or in person to explore some of the aspects of the Shabbat service. Lechu Niranana, let us join together in joy. Of course, are the first two words of the Kabbalat Shabbat Psalms, inviting us into the space, inviting us to be together in song, in study, in meditation, in prayer. My name is Rabbi Rafi Spitzer. I'm the rabbi of Congregation Agudat Achim. It's a pleasure to welcome you to this installment of Lechu Niranana, newly named. And I hope that you'll join me once a month for our opportunities for spiritual seeking together. In either October or November, we did our first Lechu Niranana, though we hadn't named it that at that time. It was a learner's service, an iyun tefillah, diving into the words of the service. And we talked about the first part of tefillot on Shabbat morning, which is Psukei de Zimra, the verses of song, Psukei de Zimra. And then in November or December, we did our second Lechu Niranana installment, and we talked about the next section of the service. So I talked about how you can understand the structure of the Jewish prayer service to be like a hand, where your pinky finger is Psukei de Zimra, the warm-up to prayer, and then your ring finger is the Kriyat Shema and its blessings, the recitation of the Shema and the blessings that surround it, slightly spiritually elevated, requires a little more focus. Certain parts of that, like the Baruch Hu, the call to prayer, require a minyan. And then the middle finger is, the November or December Lechu Niranana focused on that. In December and January, I took some weeks off to celebrate and bond with my son Jonah, who's right here strapped to me. And then the last Shabbat of January, we joined to get together for Lechu Niranana, but instead of doing iyun tefillah, instead of diving into the depths of the service, we did a musical Psukei de Zimra and a musical Shacharit. We infused the spirit of song into our worship as another modality for spiritual seeking. So that was our January one. And it's now February, and we're back to iyun tefillah, back to diving into the depths of the service. And as you can tell, we're up to the middle finger, which is the Amidah, the standing prayer, which is the pinnacle of spiritual holiness in the service. We have two more. We have the Torah service, and then the conclusion prayers, and Musaf. So we're going to talk about those at later dates. The dates of this spiritual seeking on Shabbat morning are going to be published through June, so once a month, and we're going to alternate between spiritual seeking through song, through a musical Psukei de Zimra, and spiritual seeking through iyun tefillah, through a deep study of the words of the service itself. And I think by bouncing back and forth between those two, but by thinking about them both as Lechuna Ranana, as let us join together in joy. Let us dive deep into spiritual essence of tefillah, of prayer. Let's try to see how we can connect to this holy work that we're doing of making space in our lives for God. And with that as a starting thought, I'd like to open this morning. Well, I guess I already opened with this introduction, but I'd like to open with words drawn from this week's Torah portion from Parashat Truma. Ve'asu li mikdash v'shachanti b'tocham. Make for me a sanctuary that I can dwell among them. God says to the people, build me a mikdash, build me a holy space so that I can dwell within and among the people. Join together with me in song, and then we'll jump into Iyun Tefillah, to our study of our prayers. Vasu li mikdash v'shachanti betocham v'anachnu nevarech ya me'ata ve'ad olam vasu li mikdash v'shachanti betocham v'anachnu nevarech ya me'ata ve'ad olam. O Lord, prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and holy, tried and true, and with thanksgiving I'll be a living sanctuary for you. O Lord, prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and holy, tried and true, and with thanksgiving I'll be a living sanctuary for you. So let's dive right in. Iyun Tefillah, the study of prayer, is essential in order to be able to understand the meanings of the prayers when we get to them in our service. And so I'm grateful that you joined me this morning as part of our Back to the Basics theme. We're doing this learner service, this opportunity for Iyun Tefillah. And today we are looking at the Amidah for Shabbat, that peak of spiritual essence. And so we're going to start with just an overview of the structure of the Amidah. So if you turn, you can join with me on page 354 of Sidur Sim Shalom, page 354. And we're going to talk a little bit about the structure of the Amidah. So, if you turn to page 354, you'll find that, so the Amidah, the standing prayer, is also sometimes called the Shemon Esrei, or the 18 blessings. Now, on Shabbat, the Amidah doesn't have 18 blessings, it has 7 blessings. Also, on weekdays, it doesn't have 18 blessings, it has 19 blessings, in spite of the fact that we call it the Shemon Esrei, the 18 blessings. That's a story for another day, okay? But the structure of every Amidah is the same. The first 3 blessings and the last 3 blessings the themes of them are basically unchanged in every Amidah. And it's the middle blessings. On weekdays, there are 13 middle blessings, and on Shabbat there's one middle blessing. It's the middle blessing that shifts. Nope. So let's just look at the themes of the first three blessings quickly. The first blessing is, praised are you, Lord our God, God of our ancestors, God of Abraham, God of Isaac, God of Jacob, God of Sarah, God of Rebekah, God of Rachel, God of Leah. Okay? And it closes, praised are you, Lord, Magin Avraham, shield of Abraham, Ufoked Sarah, and remember of Sarah. And that blessing is the blessing of ancestors. So we begin our Amidah, we begin our pinnacle moment of prayer, that highest spiritual level. We begin with some praise of God and connecting God's relationship to us through our ancestors, through our lineage. So that's our first blessing. The second blessing begins, Ata Gibor Leolam Adonai. Your might, O Lord, is boundless. You give life to the dead. Great is your saving power. Your loving kindness sustains the living. Right? All of this stuff. God causes the wind to blow and the rain to fall. And we close, praised are you, Lord, master of life and death. The theme of the second blessing, which is also a blessing of praise to God, the theme of the second blessing is give who wrote, God's power. Right? We could understand this a little bit as God's power in the world, God's power over the world, God's power as we see God through acting through in nature. So we begin with our relationship to God through ancestors, and then our relationship to God through the natural world. Both of these, there's a lot to say about them, but what I want to focus on for our Iyun Tefillah today is the blessing that's specific for Shabbat. So we're not diving in as deeply to these two blessings. Then we get to the third blessing, which can be found on page 356. The third blessing, we proclaim your holiness on earth. Praised are you, Lord, holy God, Baruch Atah Adonai Ha'el HaKadosh. This blessing is about God's holiness. And not only is it about holiness, but we actually weave together some verses from from prophets. Kadosh, 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 Adonai Tzvaot, holy, 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 from the book of Isaiah. Baruch Kivod Adonai Mikomo, Yimloch Adonai Leolam, Elohai Tzion Dorvador, Hallelujah. These words that we weave together, sort of imagining the holiness of God's courtroom itself. But what is holiness? Holiness is this idea of being separate, this idea of being distinct, of being designated for a particular role. And so I sort of think about this as we get our relationship to God through ancestors, our relationship to God through the natural world, and then in Kedusha, we look inward, our relationship to God through our own sense of holiness, through our own understanding of holiness in ourselves. So that's the first three blessings. Those are all connected to our relationship with God, connected to the idea of praise. Then the final three blessings are also remain very similar in most of the Amidot. In most times we say the standing prayer. And so you can find the third to last, the first of the last three blessings, on the bottom of page 358. It starts, Ritzei Adonai Eloheinu, accept the prayer of your people Israel as lovingly as lovingly as it is offered. So this prayer, which ends on the next page, praised are you, Lord, who restores God's presence to Zion. This is the prayer about prayer, about worship. It's a prayer of thanksgiving, a prayer of asking God to accept our prayers. It's a prayer where we actually sort of get meta about what prayer is, and we say, God, thank you so much for allowing us to have the time to pray to you. allowing us to have the time to be together with you in prayer. Then we get to the Modim prayer. The theme of the Modim prayer, which is on page 360, is thanksgiving. Modim anachnu lach, we are grateful to you. It doesn't say we are grateful, it says we proclaim. Modim can also mean to proclaim or also mean to be grateful. Now, over and over in this prayer, we thank you and praise you morning, noon, and night. You are good, you have everlasting mercy, and this blessing close, Hatov Shimcha Ulecha Na'eh Lehodot. Praised are you, beneficent Lord, you are good, and all thanksgiving is due to you. Oh, this is the prayer of thanksgiving. Not thanksgiving for miraculous moments like being saved from a car accident or surviving a surgery, but the day-to-day, everyday thanksgiving. Thank you, God, for the daily miracles, the nisim b'chol yom, the miracles that happen every day. That we had the strength to get out of bed, and that we had food to put on our table, and that we have running water in our homes. Like the daily, everyday, the parts of life that are just daily miracles. And then the last blessing of the Amidah is the blessing for peace. Sim shalom ba'olam, grant peace to the world. And it closes, praised are you, Lord, who blesses God's people Israel with peace. Oh, the last blessing acknowledges that without peace, all of the rest of the blessings that we are hoping for from God, whether it's relationship or connection, or on weekdays we ask for a bountiful harvest, we ask for health, we ask for a restoration of justice in the world. All of the things that we ask for are nothing if we don't have a bit of time and space to enjoy them, free from war, free from the aspects of the world that will seek to get us out of that sense of plenty, that sense of wholeness. And so the last blessing acknowledges the need also for peace. Oh. So the first three blessings, ancestors, power, might, and holiness. And the last three blessings, the worship of God, thanksgiving, and peace. Those 6 blessings stay the same in almost every Amidah that we do. While some of the words sort of sometimes change. For example, the Kiddushah, the holiness blessing on Shabbat, is a little more flowery. You can take more time talking about holiness on Shabbat than during weekdays. And the Shabbat Musaf holiness blessing is even more flowery than the Shacharit one. While it is true that at Shacharit, at the morning service, the prayer for peace is one paragraph, and then at the Mincha, the afternoon and evening services, the prayer for peace is a different paragraph. The theme of those prayers is the same, and basically those words stay the same throughout the year, throughout the week. It's the middle 13 blessings, which on Shabbat becomes one blessing, that is a little bit different. So on Shabbat, there's one blessing in the middle of the Amidah, bringing the total number of blessings in the Amidah up to 7, which is a significant number, of course. 7, the seventh day of the week. The 7 is the number of completeness, the number of holiness. And so we take away all of those 13 blessings, which have to do with asking God for things, right? So people have described the Amidah as having 3 sections: praise, request, and thanks. Praise, request, and thanks. And it is true that the first three blessings all have to do with praising God. The last three blessings all have to do with thanking God. On the weekdays, we spend 13 blessings asking God for things, different aspects of our desires for the world, for ourselves, for our families. On Shabbat, it's customary not to ask for things. We don't do that kind of requests. Instead, we focus, all of those are replaced by one blessing, which is called Kedushat Hayom, the sanctity of the day. And so we're going to look at the blessing for Kedushat Hayom and for Shabbat, but it actually changes. We do 4 different blessings for the day. One at the evening service for Shabbat, one at the morning service for Shabbat, one at the additional service or the Musaf service for Shabbat, and one for the afternoon service for Shabbat. And while they all end with the same words, praised are you, Lord, who hallows Shabbat. Praised are you, God, who makes Shabbat holy. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh Shabbat. The theme of each of these blessings is a little different, and so we're going to look through all of them and get the sense of the theme. So we start. I invite you to turn now with me to page 298, 299, which is the evening blessing. Oh, we're not going to look at the Musaf one now. We'll save the Musaf one for when we talk about Musaf in April or June. So we move on. We're going to start with the blessing for Kedushat Hayom, the blessing sanctifying the day for the evening service. So, page 298. Ata kidashta et yom hashvi'i lishmecha. You sanctified the seventh day for your glory, consummation of creating the heavens and the earth, blessing it above all other days, sanctifying it above all other times. Thus it is written in your Torah, the heavens and the earth and all they contain were completed. This is a quote from the end of Genesis, from the end of Genesis chapter 1, or the beginning of Genesis chapter 2. Vayechulu hashamayim va'aretz b'chol tzva'am. Vayichal Elohim bayom hashvi'i melachto asher asa. Vayishbot bayom hashvi'i mikol melachto asher asa. Vayivarech Elohim et yom hashvi'i vayikadesh oto kivo shavat mikol melachto asher bara Elohim la'asod. God ceased creating on the seventh day, and on the seventh day God blessed all of the labor that God had done in the first 6 days. So, what is the theme of this blessing? Oh, then we jump into a paragraph that is the same in each of them. Our God and God of our ancestors, accept our Shabbat offering of rest. Add holiness to our lives with your mitzvot, and let your Torah be our portion. Fill our lives with your goodness, and gladden us with your triumph. Cleanse our hearts so that we shall serve you faithfully, lovingly, and willingly. Lord our God, grant that we inherit your holy gift of Shabbat forever, so that your people Israel, who hallow your name, will always find rest on this day. Praised are you, Lord, who makes Shabbat holy, who hallows Shabbat. So what is the theme of this blessing? Ata kidashta et yom hashvi'i lishmecha tachlit ma'aseh shamayim va'aretz. Consummation of creating the heavens and the earth. So the theme here on Friday night, when we get to Shabbat, the theme is of creation. That Shabbat is connected deeply to the fact that the reason why we observe Shabbat is that God rested on the seventh day. Shabbat is about ceasing from the act of creation, about taking a moment to stop creating and just to appreciate the world as it is. Consummation of creation. So the theme of Friday night, as the sun goes down and you're saying this and you're welcoming in Shabbat, that theme is creation. And you'll notice that The paragraph here is also used for Kiddush, the sanctification paragraph that we do over wine at our meal on Shabbat evening. Vayechulu Hashamayim is part of Kiddush for Friday night. And so on Friday night, our Kiddushat Hayom, the sanctity of the day, comes from the fact of creation, that the Shabbat is the seventh day of creation, that God created Shabbat in 7 days. Well, let's move to the Shabbat morning, page 358, 359. Before we jump into that, if anybody has any questions or thoughts or comments or reflections on anything that we've covered so far in today's teaching, please do send me an email after Shabbat, and I'm happy to respond to you to your questions, or give me a phone call this week. Happy to discuss it. So, so far what we've covered, if you're just joining us now, my name is Rabbi Rafi Spitzer. This is Lechu Neranana, an opportunity for spiritual seeking on Shabbat morning. We're going to be alternating, we're going to be doing this once a month, alternating between Iyun Tfilah, a learner service where we dive deep into the structure and the meaning of the prayers, and a musical Psukei de Zimra, praising God through Shirah, through song. So this month we're doing Iyun Tfilah. Next month we're going to return to musical Psukei de Zimra. All of our moments of preparation for Shabbat morning services, called Lechu Neranana, come let us join together in joy, will be from 9 to 9:45 on Shabbat morning, once a month between now and June. Very excited to have this opportunity to join with you. And certainly, you're welcome to join in person or by live stream. Today, we are looking at the middle focus of our service. That is to say, Psukei de Zimra, the warm-up for prayer, is like your pinky finger. The Kriyat Shema u'virchoteha, the recitation of the Shema and its blessings, is like the ring finger, slightly higher in holiness, focus on study. We covered some aspect of Psukei de Zimra. We looked at Psalm 30 in our first Lechu Neranana, and we looked at some aspects of Kriyat Shema, the recitation of the Shema, and the blessings before and after in our second Lechu Neranana, Iyun Tfilah, Learner's Minyan service. We're now focused on the Amidah, which is the middle. The other two fingers are the Torah service, our study of Torah and Musaf, and our conclusion prayers. We're going to have the opportunity to return to those in our Iyun Tfilah study in our Lechu Neranana, spiritual seeking on Shabbat morning in April and June. But today we're focused on the Amidah. So far what we've done is we've looked at the structure of the Amidah as a whole, which has 3 blessings of praise at the beginning, 3 blessings of thanksgiving at the end, and then the middle of the Amidah is a little variable depending on what time of week or day or holiday you are a part of. And so on Shabbat, we don't do all of the bakashot, we don't do all of the requests that we do on weekdays, but all 13 of those blessings are replaced by a single blessing which focuses on the sanctity of the day. And we just looked at the sanctity of the day as it relates to the Friday night blessing in the Amidah for Shabbat. Ata kidashta et yom hashvi lishmecha tachlit maaseh shamayim va'aretz. The theme there is that Shabbat is connected to creation, that we observe Shabbat because God ceased from creating on the 7th day, and we too cease from creating as the sun goes down on Friday, we bring in Shabbat and we no longer do acts of creation or destruction. And we're now turning to the Amidah for Shabbat morning, which we will do together in just another 30 or so minutes, 35, 40 minutes, as part of our Shabbat morning service. And we're on page 358 in the Sidur Sim Shalom, page 358. And let's read together the blessing here for Kiddushat Hayom, for sanctifying the day. And think to yourself, what is the theme, what is the repeated idea that keeps coming back in this paragraph? Moses rejoiced at the gift of his destiny when you declared him a faithful servant, adorning him with splendor as he stood in your presence atop Mount Sinai. 2 tablets of stone did he bring down, inscribed with Shabbat observance. And thus it is written in your Torah, V'shameru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat l'dorotam b'rit olam. The people Israel shall observe Shabbat to maintain it as an everlasting covenant throughout all generations. It is a sign between me and the people Israel for all time that in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth, and on the 7th day God ceased from work and rested. You have not granted this day, lo nitato Adonai Eloheinu. You have not granted this day, Lord our God, to other peoples of the world, nor have you granted it, our King, as a heritage to idolaters, nor do those outside the covenant know its rest, which you have given lovingly to the people Israel, your beloved descendants of Jacob. May the people who make the 7th day holy find satisfaction and delight in your generosity. The 7th day you have chosen to make holy, declaring it most precious, a day recalling the work of creation. Our God and God of our ancestors, accept our Shabbat offering of rest, add holiness to our lives with your mitzvot, and let your Torah be our portion. Fill our lives with your goodness, and gladden us with your triumph. Cleanse our hearts, and we shall serve you faithfully, lovingly, and willingly. Lord our God, grant that we inherit your holy gift of Shabbat forever, so that your people Israel who hallow your name will always find rest on this day. Praised are you, Lord, who hallows Shabbat. As I mentioned, the last paragraph remains the same. In the evening and the morning, that's the paragraph that's Eloheinu Elohei Avotenu Retzevim Nuchatenu. While there are some differences in different Sidurim, that paragraph mostly remains the same for each of the Shabbat blessings. So what is the theme of this one? Obviously, it picks up on the theme of creation. Certainly, Shabbat is about being the 7th day of creation. Certainly, Shabbat is about ceasing from creation. But more than that, here Shabbat is seen as a sign of the covenant, right? Here Shabbat is connected to the 2 tablets of stone that Moses brought down from Mount Sinai. Here, Shabbat is connected to revelation, to the Torah, to God's giving the Torah to the Jewish people, and for Shabbat's particularism, that is to say that Shabbat is a sign of what it means to be Jewish. Now, we know today, of course, that our community is welcoming and open to all people, whether you are Jewish or not. And certainly, we know that in the world, many people who aren't Jewish do observe some form of Shabbat, whether on Fridays, or on Sundays, or on Saturdays. There are so many opportunities in the various traditions and religions of the world to have this moment of observance of Shabbat. So we know that some of this isn't maybe strictly true, and yet the focus here in the prayer is a focus on what it means to be connected to God through covenant, that the Jewish people specifically has a special relationship with God, a unique relationship with God, and that Shabbat, observance of Shabbat, is a sign of that covenant with God, where the evening blessing was all about the sun going down, the ceasing of creation, the welcoming in of Shabbat, and that feeling of Shabbat as part of the 7 days of the week. Here, Shabbat is deeply connected to Torah, to the two tablets that Moshe brought down to Sinai, to the idea of God revealing God's self to the Jewish people on Mount Sinai, as we read about only 2 weeks ago, and giving us the Torah. This quote, the Vishamru B'nai Yisrael quote, which is also part of our Kiddush, our sanctification prayer over wine for Shabbat morning, comes from the book of Exodus, not from the book of Genesis, where it's connected to the idea of creation, but to the book of Exodus, where it's really about this connection to God through revelation, through Sinai, through Torah. So we find that Shabbat has these manifestations on Shabbat morning when we come to synagogue and we read from the Torah, right? Reading from the Torah is a big part of how we celebrate Shabbat, how we observe Shabbat, engaging with Shabbat as an aspect of the way that God reveals God's self to us, and specifically that God enters into relationship not just with the whole world, which was more universalistic that we talked about in the evening prayer, but that God enters into relationship specifically with the Jewish people through the covenant at Sinai, that Shabbat is a part of that unique relationship. That is what we talk about on Shabbat morning. Any thoughts, comments, reflections, questions? Do send them to me. We're going to jump right ahead to our moment to our final Amidah for Shabbat, which is the Shabbat for Mincha, the Amidah for Mincha on Shabbat afternoon, the afternoon service, and you can find that on page 578, page 578, 579. So let's read this together. Ata echad v'shimcha echad, umi k'amcha Yisrael goy echad ba'aretz. You are one, your name is one, and who is like your people Israel, unique throughout the world. Singular splendor, crown of salvation, a day of rest and sanctity you have given to your people. Abraham was glad, Isaac rejoiced, Jacob and his children found rest on this day, a rest reflecting your lavish love and true faithfulness, in peace and tranquility, contentment and quietude, a perfect rest in which you delight. May your children acknowledge you as the source of rest, and through their rest, may they sanctify your name. Our God and God of our ancestors, accept your Shabbat offering of rest, add holiness to our lives with your mitzvot, and let your Torah be our portion. Fulfill our lives with your goodness, and gladden us with your triumph. Cleanse our hearts, and we shall serve you faithfully. Lovingly and willingly, Lord our God, grant that we inherit your holy gift of Shabbat forever, so that the people Israel who hallow your name shall always find rest on this day. Praised are you, Lord, who hallows Shabbat. Menuchat shalom v'shalva, menuchat emet v'emunah, menucha shalema shata rotzeba. What is this talking about? What is the complete rest that is being referred to here in this passage? It is the complete rest of the world to come, the complete rest of the Messianic era, the complete rest which the Talmud describes Shabbat as being me'ein olam haba, that it is a taste of the world to come. This, the final blessing for Shabbat, for the sanctification of Shabbat, the blessing that we find in our afternoon service of Shabbat, is connected to the idea of redemption, is connected to the idea of God as Redeemer, that God is connected to the idea of God as Redeemer, that God is bringing, that Shabbat is bringing a sense of perfect peace, of perfect rest, that there's a hope that every day will be Yom Shakulo Shabbos, right? That the idea that what is the Olam Haba, the next world, what is the character of the world of the Messianic age? It will be a world that is like always Shabbos, a complete Shabbos, a Shabbos of complete rest. And so when we talk about Menucha Shlema, a full sense of rest, that is bringing us to the idea of Shabbat, that Shabbat is redemptive. That there's an aspect of Shabbat that actually brings more redemption into the world. And that's part of that idea there is, right, it's only through the opportunity to have that sense of ceasing from labor, only that idea of being in relationship in a holy covenant with God, only those things can inspire us to create a world that is better than the world that we found, a world that is more redeemed, a world that creates a sense of redemption. And so Shabbat is about these three, as Franz Rosenzweig said, these three ideas that are the basic tenets of Judaism: creation, revelation, and redemption. And as we go through Shabbat, the mood of Shabbat shifts from Friday night, where it's about bringing in that sense of creation, to Shabbat morning, where it's about reading from the Torah and enjoying that sense of spiritual connection. Finally, to Shabbat afternoon, after you've taken your Shabbat shluf, after you've taken your nap, after good meals, where you come back to have this opportunity to imagine a world where every day could be like Shabbat, where every day has that sense of peace, that sense of purity. And we hope to be able to, through our actions, through our melacha, through our labor, through the work that we do in the 6 days of the week, we hope to be working toward creating that sense of holiness, that sense of peace. So we'll close with the same song that we started with, song drawn from this week's Torah portion, Parashat Trumah. Vasuli mikdash, make for me a sanctuary so that I can dwell among the people. V'shachanti b'tocham v'anachnu nevarech Yah me'atah v'ad olam. O Lord, prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and holy, tried and true, and with thanksgiving I'll be a living sanctuary for you. Shabbat Shalom. Thank you for joining me this morning with our Iyun Tefillah, with our learners service, with our study, with our deep dive into the Shabbat Amidah. This has been Lechu Neranenah. Come, let us join in joy, an opportunity for spiritual seeking on Shabbat morning. The next time, will be a once-a-month opportunity. The next time we will be joining for Lechu Neranenah, for our opportunity to do some spiritual seeking on Shabbat morning, will be a musical Psukei de Zimra, also from 9 to 9:45. So please do keep a lookout in your email for that. And we're very excited to join together. And we will do some more Iyun Tefillah, some more learners service in 2 months in April. Shabbat Shalom. And momentarily we will begin our 9:45 regular Shabbat morning service. Thank you if you joined at 9 for our Lechu Neranenah spiritual seeking, and we'll begin just momentarily. Shabbat Shalom. Yes, I assigned him to the first Aliyah.
It's true, but it comes right back off very quickly. Especially given the Jonah.
Yeah.
He disappears into the whale.
You know, I always thought about it sort of as Mobius, like it wraps around you like a Mobius strip, like a continuous wrap. Yeah.
You know, you can put a half twist in it when you wrap it on, and then you can really get the proper
That's
Mobius
what I'm
effect. Yeah.
You have to tie
If
it
the buckle
together.
is asymmetric that way, yeah. And I think I will get the scroll onto the table before David shows up, basically. I think that's where we're going to turn it over.
Yes. Yes. Onto the table, unwrapped, lifted, back on the table.
Then I will wipe everything in sight.
Yep.
So,
And the Torah for Zachor is the one farthest to the, so that's the one you should take out.
okay, so there's a
So you just take out the Zachor one and put it there, and take out the middle one.
and then that's the one I bring around. Okay.
Yep.
On the far right. Number 5.
Yeah. It says Zachor on it.
It says, okay. Well, you're assuming I remembered which Shabbat it was, which I assure you I didn't. Go ahead, we'll look at that.
All right. Shabbat Shalom. Welcome to Congregation Agudat Achim's in-person and live stream Shabbat morning service. Today is a special Shabbat for 2 reasons. First, it is Shabbat Zachor, the Shabbat before Purim, which is the second of 4 special Shabbatot leading up to Passover. We do Shabbat Zachor, the Shabbat before Purim, because it connects to the idea of Amalek. Amalek, of course, is connected to Purim because there's a tradition that Haman was descended from the Amalekite king Agag. In fact, in the book of Esther, Haman is called repeatedly the Agagite, Haman HaAgagi. And so Purim is about that, the possibility of Amalek rising up, the possibility of evil in the world. And so we read the verses from the book of Deuteronomy commanding us to blot out the name of Amalek. Interestingly, these verses are in fact, and I guess I'll talk about this again a little later, the only time in the year where there is a mitzvah to hear the Torah reading. We always want to hear the Torah reading. There's a mitzvah to do Torah study, but the specific words that we read from the Torah are not, most weeks, they are not obligatory on the individual to hear them, even if they are obligatory on the community to recite them. But these words, these 3 verses from Deuteronomy, are a positive Torah command. You must hear these words. And so, in fact, coming to Shul on Shabbat Zachor or participating in our service by live stream is a positive mitzvah today. The second reason why this is a special Shabbat is because this Shabbat we are celebrating Shabbat honoring Hadassah, the organization. Hadassah has been in American Jewish life for the last 60 or 70 years, an incredibly important institution in Jewish life. The work that the Hadassah organization has done in Jewish camping, in promoting Zionism, in connecting to the work of the hospital, Hadassah Hospital in Jerusalem, has been really, really powerful. And my Devar Torah this morning will be connected to Hadassah. We also celebrated or honored Hadassah Shabbat this week by inviting in a Dr. Cheryl Spitzer-Resnick, who is a lifetime member of Hadassah, to do a program this past Wednesday with our Healthy Living group, which is a subset of our Faith Community Nursing, which is a subset of Reut, which is a subset of Women's Network. The Healthy Living group brought in Dr. Cheryl Spitzer-Resnick to talk about an aspect of healthy living. It was a wonderful presentation and is available on our website. So that was also in celebration and in honor of Hadassah Shabbat. I've talked too much already. Let's begin our service. My name is Rabbi Rafi Spitzer. Welcome again to Congregation Agudat Achim. Steve Schmidt is leading us this morning in Shachrit, which can be found in our Sidur Sim Shalom, the full Sidur Sim Shalom, page 54, Baruch She'amar.
Baruch She'amar v'haya ha'olam Baruch Hu Baruch Oseh Bereshit Baruch Omer ve'oseh Baruch Ozer U'Mekayim Baruch Merachem al Haaretz Baruch Merachem al Habriot Baruch Mishalem Sachar Tov L'Reahav Baruch Chai La'ad V'Kayam La'Netzach Baruch Podeh U'Matzil Baruch Shemo. Yachid Chei Ha'olamim, Melech Meshubah Mefoar, Adead Shemo HaGadol, Baruch Atah Adonai, Melech Mehulal Batishbachot.
You may be seated as we continue our service with Nishmat, page 334, page 334.
Nishmat Kol Chai, Tevarech Et Shimcha Adonai Eloheinu, Baruch HaBasar Tibar. Nehalalecha u'neshibachacha u'nefa'erecha u'nevarech et shem kodshecha kamur leDavid barchi nafshi et Adonai lechol keravai et shem kodsho Ha'el b'ta'atzumot uzecha hagadol b'kvod shemecha hagibor lanetzach v'hanora b'noratecha hamelech ha'yoshev al kisei ram v'nisaha.
The formal chanting of Shachrit begins with the words Shochein Ad in the middle of page 336.
Shochein ad maharom v'kadosh shemo v'chatuv ranu tzadikim b'Adonai l'sharim navati laha v'fi sharim tit halal u'v'divrei tzadikim tit barach u'v'ilshon chasidim tit romam u'v'kerev kedoshim tit kadash. U'makalot rivavot amcha beit Yisrael Rinavit parshmecha malkinu chol dor vador Sheken chovot kol hayotzrim lefanecha Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu Lehodot lehalel leheshabeach Lefa'er l'romem l'hader v'arech u'lekales al kol divrei shirot v'tishbechot David ben Yishai avdecha meshichecha.
Please rise for Yishtabach, page 338.
Yishtabak Shimcha La'ad Malkeinu Ha'el HaMelech HaGadol V'Kadosh Shemayim Ba'aretz Ki Lechana Adonai Eloheinu V'Elohei Avoteinu Shir U'Shavacha Halav Zimra Ozu Memshala Netzach Gedula Ugvura Tehila V'Tiferet Kedusha U'Malchut Brachot vehodaot me'ata ve'ad olam Baruch atah Adonai El melech gadol batishbachot El ha'odaot Adon haniflaot Habocher b'shirei zimra Melech elchei ha'olamim Yitkadal v'yitkadash mei rabaha Be'alma divra hirute v'amlik malchute B'chayechon v'yamechon v'chayechol beit Yisrael Ba'agalav v'zman karihi v'imruhu amen Yesh mei rabha mevarach Ve'elam u'lam me'almaya Yitbarak v'ishtabak v'yitpar v'yitroman v'yitnaseh V'yitadar v'yitalev v'yithalal shmei dekudesha b'richu Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata Tushbechata v'nechemata Da'amiran be'almaha V'yimeruhu amen.
The call to worship, Baruch, page 340.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach
Baruch Adonai HaMorach.
Baruch Adonai HaMorach Le'olam va'ed Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Yotzer or uvorei choshech Oseh shalom uvorei et hakol.
You may be seated as we continue with the first bracha before Kriyat Shema, the first blessing before the recitation of the Shema, page 340.
In kerchecha Adonai Eloheinu ba'olam hazeh ve'en zilutecha malkeinu l'chayei ha'olam haba efes biltecha go'aleinu limot hamashiach ve'en domeh lecha moshienu litchiyat hametim El Adon al kol hamasim baruch u'mevorach b'fi kol neshama godlo v'tuvo Male olam da'at u'tvuna sovivimoto Hamid ga'e al chayot HaKodesh Nedar bechavod al merkava zechut u'mishor Lifnei chiso chesed v'rachamim lifnei chevodo Tovim meorot shebara Eloheinu Yitzaram beda'at bevina uvahaskel koach ugvura Natan bahem liot moshlim bekerev tevel Meleim zivu mefikim noga na'ezivam bechol ha'olam Samechim betzetam besasim bevoam osim be'emaratzon konam Pa'er v'chavod notnim lishmo Zohol averina lezecher malchuto Kara l'shemesh v'yizrach or ra'a v'hitkim surat havana Shevach notnim lo kol tzeva marom tiferet ugedula srafim ve'ofanim ve'chayot hakodesh le'el asher shavad mikol hama'asim Titbarak Moshienu al shevach ma'aseh yadecha ve'al me'orei or she'asita yefa'aru chasela. Titbarak Tzurenu Malkenu Veko Aleinu Borei Kadoshim.
344.
V'chulam pochim et pihem b'kdusha u'v'tohora b'shira u'v'zimra u'mevarchim u'meshabchim u'mefarihim u'ma'aritzihim u'mahakdishim u'mahamlichim et Shem ha'el ha'melech ha'gadol ha'gibor ha'ra kadoshu v'kulam mekablim alehem ol malchut shamayim ze mizeh v'nonim reshut ze lazeh lehakdish liyotzram benachat ruach besafa berura uvin imaha kadoshaha kulam kechad onim ve'omrihim be'yiraha Kadosh, 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 Adonai Tzebaot, Malok kol haaretz kivodo, v'ha'ofani v'chayot hakodesh, bera'ash gadol mitnasim, le'matzrafihim, le'umatam mishabchim, ve'omrim, Baruch kivod Adonai mimkomo. Le'el Baruch Ne'imo Yitenu. Or Chadash al Tzion Ta'ir, Or Chadash al Tzion Ta'ir. Or Chadash al Tzion Ta'ir, Or Chadash al Tzion Ta'ir. V'nizke chulanu meher aleoro. V'nizke chulanu meher aleoro. Baruch atah Adonai Yotzer HaMeorot.
Page 346.
Ahava Rabbah Ahavtanu Adonai Eloheinu Chemla Gedola V'teracham Lata Aleinu Ahavinu Malkeinu Ba'avur Avotenu Shebachu V'cha Avinu Malkeinu V'telamdem Chukechayim Ken Techonenu Lamdenu Avinu Ha'av Harachaman Amrachem Rachem Aleinu V'ten B'libeinu Lehavinu Lahaskil Lishmo Lilmodu Lelamed Lishmor Velahasot Ulekayim et kol divrei Talmud Toratecha be'ahava V'ha'ereneinu b'toratecha V'dabek libeinu b'mitzvotecha V'yached levaveinu le'ahava u'yira et shemecha V'lo nevosh Le'olam va'ed, Velo nevosh, Le'olam va'ed, Ki b'shem kodshecha, Hagadol v'hanora batachnu, Nagila v'nismecha, Nagila v'nismecha b'shuatecha. V'havienu l'shalom me'arba kanfot ha'aretz V'tolichenu komemiyud le'artzenu Ki el poel Yeshuotata uvanu macharta mikolam belashon ve'keravtanu v'shimcha hagadol Selah Selah be'emet Hodot lecha Uyachedcha be'ahava Baruch atah Adonai Abocher b'mo Yisrael be'ahava Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Ve'ahavata et Adonai Elohecha B'chol vavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha Ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele Asher Anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta habam v'shivtecha v'eitecha v'velektecha b'derech v'v'shokbecha u'v'kumecha v'kshartam leot al yadecha v'hayu letotachot b'einenecha Uktavtam al mezuzot beitecha uvisharecha. Lord. Adonai Elohechem emet. Emet v'yatziv nachon v'kayam v'yasher Ledor vador hu kayam ushmo kayam v'chiso nachon u'malchoto ve'umunato la'ad kayamet Udvarav chayim v'kayamim nemanim v'nechmadim Adonai Emet shatahu Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu Malkeinu melech avotenu go'aleinu go'el avotenu Yotzreinu tzur Yeshuatenu Podenu matzilenu Me'olam shemecha Ein Elohim zulatecha Ezrat avotenu Atahu me'olam Magin Moshe l'pnehem Tehilot le'elyon baruch hu mevorach Moshe v'nei Israel lecha anu shira b'simcha rabah ve'amru chulam Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai Mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh Nora tehilot osef ele Shira chadasha shibchu geulihim L'shimcha al sfat hayam Yachad kulam hodu v'himlichu ve'amru Adonai imloch le'olam va'ed.
Please rise for Tzur Yisrael. We'll join together for the beginning of the Amidah, and after the Kedusha, we'll continue with the individual whispered Amidah. For those of you who joined for our Lechun Ranana Iyun Tfilah this morning, for our learner service, you'll be able to put into practice the learning that we did about the Kedushat Hayom blessing, the blessing sanctifying the day on page 358.
Sur Yisrael, Kuma Bezrat Yisrael, Uvdechinu Mecha Yehuda Yisrael, Go Aleinu Adonai Tzavahot Shemo, Kedosh Yisrael, Baruch Atah Adonai, Gal Yisrael. Baruch Atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avoteinu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor Ve'Hanorah, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Ve'Koneh HaKol, V'Zocher Chasdei Avot, Umevi Goel Livnei B'neihem, Lema'an Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer Ufokedu Moshiach Umagen, Baruch Atah Adonai, Magen Avraham Ufoked Sarah, Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mechayim Etim Atarav Lehoshia, Mashiv HaRuach Umorid HaGashem, Mechalkel Chayim Bechesed, Mechayim Eitim Berachamim Rabim, So make Noflim Verofei Cholim, Umatir Asurim, Umekayim Emunato Lishenei Afar, Michamocha Ba'al Gevurot, Umito Melach, Melech Mimi Tu Mechaye, Umatmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman Atah L'Chayot Meitim, Baruch Atah Adonai, Mechaye HaMeitim. Nekadesh et Shimcha ba'olam, Kishem shemakdishim oto b'shmei marom, Kakatuv al yad neviecha, V'kara ze el ze ve'yahamar, Kadosh, 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 Adonai Tzebaot, Melok kol haaretz kevodo. Kevohoda az bekol rash gadol, adir v'chazak mashmim kol, mitnasim l'matzrafihim leumatam baruch yomeru, baruch kevod Adonai mimkomo, mimkomcha malkeinu, malkeinu tofiyah, V'timloch aleinu ki machakim anachnu lach mimkomcha malkeinu tofia v'timloch aleinu ki machakim anachnu lach Matai timloch betzion Matai timloch betzion Bekarov beyamenu leolam va'ed tishkon Bekarov beyamenu leolam va'ed tishkon Tit gadal v'tit kadash betok Yerushalayim ircha Ledor vador unetzach netzachim V'einenu tirena malchutecha Kadavar hamur b'shirei uzecha Al yedei David Meshiach tzidkecha Yimloch Adonai le'olam Elohai Tzion Ledor vador Hallelujah Ledor vador Nagid Godlecha Ulenetzach netzachim kedushatcha nakdish v'shivchacha Eloheinu mipinu lemush le'olam va'ed Ki al melech gadol v'kadosh ata Baruch ata Adonai ha'el ha'kadosh
If you haven't completed your individual whispered Amidah, please continue davening. We join together for Kaddish Shalem, page 392.
יקרא ויקרא שמי רבה.
Amen.
ועלמד יברח חירותי וימליק מלכותי בחיי חון ובימי חון ובחיי לכל בית ישראל בעגלה בזמן קריב ויאמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך לעולם לעמי עמיה יתברך. יתברך וישבח ויתפאר ויתרום ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה בריחו לעילא מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דמירן בעלמא ויאמרו אמן. תקבל סוטון ובעדכון דכל ירוק קדם ובהון תבישמיה ואימרו אמן. יהי שלמה רבה מן שמיה וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואימרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואימרו amen.
We continue with the Psalm for Shabbat, page 32.
היום יום שבת קודש, שבו היו הלווים אומרים בבית המקדש, מזמור שיר ליום השבת. טוב להודות לאדוני לזמנו שמך עליון, להגיד לו בגשתך, ולעלי עצור עלינו ועליון. ידך ישבר את האפס, וגם זאת. Oh, dinevun besevad sheni veranani miyu lehagid ki yashar Adonai suri velo avlata bo.
Kaddish Avelim, Mourner's Kaddish, page 52. Yitkadal, V'yitkadash, Shemei Rava,
Amen.
Ve'alma Divra Kirutei, Ve'amlich Malchutei, V'chayechon Uvyomechon Uv'chayei D'chol Beit Yisrael, V'agala U'bizman Kariv Yimru Amen.
Amen.
Yehi Shmei Rava Mevarach Le'alam Lamei Almaya. Yitbarach V'yishtabach V'yitpa'ar V'yitromam V'yitnaseh V'yitadar V'yitaleh V'yitalal Shmei D'Kudesha Brichu Leila Min Kol Birchata V'shirata Tushbechata V'nechamata Damiran Be'alma V'yimru Amen. Yehi Shlama Rabba Min Shemaya V'chayim Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael V'yimru Amen. Oseh Shalom Mimromav Hu Yaseh Shalom Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. Shabbat Shalom. Welcome to Congregation Agudat Achim's live stream and in-person Shabbat morning service. My name is Rabbi Rafi Spitzer. It's a pleasure to welcome you to participate in our service, whether you're here in person or joining by live stream. It's a pleasure to be in community with you. This morning we are reading Parashat Terumah and Shabbat Zachor, which means we are taking out two Sifrei Torah, two Torah scrolls. As I mentioned last week, it's currently our custom during this time of COVID to only take out Torah scrolls which are not included in our Musaf service. So neither the Parashat Terumah nor the special Torah reading for the Shabbat before Purim, Shabbat Zachor, are contained in our Musaf service. So we will be taking out two Torah scrolls as usual this morning. As you know, we try very hard to stay distanced away from each other, and because of that, we try to have only one person up on the beam at a time. So we're not going to take out both scrolls and hold them. We're going to take out the Zachor scroll and put it on the holder, and then hold the Terumah scroll. Also, Steve Yasher Koach on leading us in Shacharit, and Steve is going to also lead us in the Torah service, and he will be doing Hagba, and then wipe down the Atzei Chaim, the Torah scrolls, and the surrounding area, so that when Dan comes up to read Torah, it's all safe and prepared for him, well, as safe as we understand it to be according to our protocols. Note that we are now following the Sephardi custom of doing Hagbah at the beginning of the Torah service. The reason that we do that is so that folks who are honored with an aliyah to the Torah, even though you're not coming to stand next to the Torah to kiss the words and say the blessings while holding the Eitzei Chaim, you will have a visual recognition of the text of the Torah at the time that Steve lifts the Torah at the beginning of the Torah service. And then when you say the blessings, have that in mind. It's also good for all of us to be able to see the words of Torah, and that's why we have moved the Hagbah to the beginning of our Torah service. So again, welcome to our Shabbat service and to celebrating Shabbat Zachor, the Shabbat before Purim, with us, and also in honor of Hadassah. Hadassah Shabbat, and we'll get into that a little bit more later. We turn now to page 394, the service for taking the Torah out of the ark.
In kamocha va'elohim Adonai ve'in kemahasecha malchutecha malchut kol olamim umemshatecha bechol dor v'ador Adonai melech Adonai malach Adonai imloch leolam va'ed Adonai oz le'amo yitein Adonai yivarech et amo v'shalom Av harachamim heitiv avirtzoncha et Zion Tivnei chomot Yerushalayim Tivnei chomot Yerushalayim Ki v'chalevad batachnu Melech Elam v'nisa Adon olamim.
We rise as the ark is open.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo. Gadol Adonai iti, v'nerome ma Shemo yachdav. Adonai
Hagdula, V'hagevura, V'hatiferet,
V'hanetzach v'hahod, ki kol b'shamayim u'ba'aretz. Lecha Adonai hamamlacha, v'haminaseh lechol erosh. Romemu, 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 Adonai Eloheinu. V'hishtachavu, v'hishtachavu, lehadom raglav kadosh hu. Romemu, Romemu, Adonai Eloheinu. V'hishtachavu, v'hishtachavu, lehar kodsho ki kadosh, Adonai Eloheinu.
Remain standing for Hagba. Ezot HaTorah Asher Sam Moshe Livnei Bnei Yisrael Hapi Adonai Yad Moshe. Vayazor v'yagin v'yoshia l'chol ha'chosim bo v'nomar amen hakol havu g'dolinu kavod ha'torah yamod. David ben Yisrael halevi v'rina Baruch shenatan Torah le'amo Yisrael b'kedushato.
Hayim kochem hayom.
Ve'atem hadevekim b'Adonai Elohechem hayim kochem hayom. We are reading from the middle of Parashat Terumah. What did you miss at the beginning of the parsha? Well, you missed the instructions for how to make the ark, and how to make the table, and how to make the lampstand. But don't worry. You're going to get to hear about how to make the curtains and the cloth and the planks and the screens and the bars. So we're going to get lots of instructions of how to make the tabernacle, the Mishkan. We are picking up at chapter 26, verse 1, which can be found at the bottom of page 491 in our Eitz Chaim Chumash, page 491. Chapter 26, verse 1. Baruch Adonai Melech Le'olam Va'ed. Amen.
hamishkan taseser yuriot shesh matzar utachelet v'agaman v'talat shani krubim masecha shev taseotam orech hayuriot ha'echad shmona v'esrim ba'ama v'rachav arba ba'ama hayuriyah ha'echad midah achat l'chol hayuriyot Hamesh Hayuriyot Tien Achavrot Asher El Achota V'Chamesh Yuriyot Havarta Eshe El Achota.
Amen. In taking this aliyah, David is honoring his father Arthur Yisrael Stashauer, whose yahrzeit is this coming week. May his memory be a blessing for you. Yeh zichro baruch. Yamod. Oh, Yamod Micha ben Avram Sarah. Sheni. The second aliyah can be found on page 492, verse 4. Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Va'ed. Amen. Ve'asita la'ut.
Amen. V'asita lulo techelet. Al sfat hayiriyah ha'echad mikta
Mikatza.
b'chavaret v'chein ta'aseh b'sfat hayiriyah ha'kitzona b'machberet ha'sheni hamishim lula'o ta'aseh b'yiriyah ha'echad v'chamishim lula'o ta'aseh b'ktzei hayiriyah asher b'machberet ha'sheni b'makbilot halula'ot isha el achotah Yasita chamishim kasei zahav chavart v'chivarta et hayiriyot isha el achota b'krasim v'haya hamishkan echad.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Yeah.
Go Mel.
I'm going to do it later.
What? Okay. Call me when you want it done.
But you got it. Yamod. Aryeh ben Esther Shalishi.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorah.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol hamim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. The third aliyah can be found verse 7, page 492, Vasita Yiriot Izim.
Amen. Vyasita yiriot izim lohel al mishkan ashtei esrei yiriot taseotam orech hayiriyah ha'achad shloshim b'yama v'rachav arba ha'bama echad midachat lishte esrei yiriyot v'chibarta et chamesh hayiriyot lavad v'et sheish hayiriyot lavad v'chafalta et hayiriyot hashishit el mul pnei ha'ohel v'asita chamishim lula'ot al sfat hayiriyah ha'echad hakitzona b'choboret hamishim lula lula'ot al sfat hayiriyah ha'echad
Hayiriyah,
Hachoveret
Hachoveret,
Hashenit V'asi
Hashenit.
V'zita Karsei Nechoshet Hamishim V'heveta Et Hakrasim V'lula'ot V'chibarta Et Ohel
Hayah Echad.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah temet v'chayei olam natah b'dochenu Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Ta'amod. Shoshana Tzema bat Chaim v'Feiga. And yeah. Aliyah HaRevi'it, the fourth Aliyah can be found, chapter 26, verse 12.
Baruch hu Adonai Hambarach.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Barach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. B'serach odef b'yiriot ha'ohel hati ha'yiriyah ha'odefet tisrach al harei hamishkan v'hama mizeh b'yodef b'yorech yiriyot ha'ohel yesaruach al Al-Nidei Hamishkan Mizeh L'chasotaho V'yasita Michseh L'ohel Orot Elim Ha'adumim Umichseh Orot Hashim Milmala.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam natah b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Susan takes this aliyah in honor of her father, Harvey Sharfstein's yahrzeit, which is today. May his memory be a blessing. Yehi zichro baruch. Tamod. Bracha Chana bat Avram David v'simcha. Aliyah Chamishit. The fifth aliyah can be found at the bottom of page 493. Chapter 26, verse 15.
Baruch hu et Adonai Hamvarach.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. V'yasita et hakrashim la'mishkan atzei shitim omdim eser amot orech hakeresh ha'ama v'hatzi ha'ama v'chav hakeresh echad shtei yadot hakeresh echad b'shulavot isha el achota King Asel Lechok Hashem Hamishkan V'yasita
Hashem Hamishkan.
El Hamishkan V'yasita El Hakarshim L'Mishkan Esrim Keresh Lifat Negba Temanaha V'yaba Imadnei Kesef Ta'aseh Tachat Esrim Hakeresh Shnei Adonim Tachat Hakeresh Hachad Nishtei Yidotav Ushnei Adonim Tachat hakeresh ha'echad lishtei yidotav v'letzeh ha'mishkan hasheni lifat tzafon v'yesrim koresh v'aba'im adnei kasef shnei adonim Tachat hakeresh ha'echad ושני אדונים תחת הקרש האחד.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chayei olam nota b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai, noten haTorah.
Amen. Ta'amod. Aaron Avad Meir Yitzchak from Aliyah HaShishit. The sixth Aliyah can be found on page 494, chapter 26, verse 22.
Baruch hu et Adonai Barach. Baruch Adonai Barach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Uliarkete hamishkan yama taseh shisha krashim ushnei krashim taseh limkutaot hamishkan v'yachatayim v'yayu tamim milmata v'yachdo yiyu tamim al rosho el tabaot ha'echad kein yesh lishnehem lishnei hamiktaot yiyu V'hayu shmona krashim radnehem kesef shisha eser adonim shnei adonim tachat hakeresh ha'achad u'shnei adonim tachat hakeresh ha'achad.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Yamod. Reuven ben Mordechai v'Chana, Aliyah HaShevi'it. The seventh Aliyah can be found on page 494, chapter 26, verse 26.
Baruch hu et Adonai Hamvarach.
Baruch Adonai Barach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Barach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. V'asita b'richim atzei shitim hamisha l'kashet tel hamishkan ha'echad v'hamisha b'richim l'kashet tel hamishkan hasheni v'hamisha b'richim l'kashet tel hamishkan le'yakatayim yama v'habriach tehatichon b'toch hakrashim ma'briach min hakatzeh el hakatzeh V'yet hakrashim tzape zahav, v'yet tabotehem taseh zahav, batim labrichim v'tzipita et habrichim zahav, v'hakemota et hamishkan kamishpato asher hareta behar.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Rob takes this Aliyah in honor of his mother-in-law, Judith Woolen, whose yahrzeit is this coming week. May her memory be a blessing to you. At this time, you'll notice that Dan is doing Galila and wrapping the first Sefer Torah and bringing the second Sefer Torah over. In just a moment, we're going to open the Ark for the healing prayer. But before we do, we started a new custom this past week, which I wrote about in my Dvar Torah, in my teaching in this week's weekly, which is to offer the opportunity to mark this moment of gratitude that we have as members of our community are able to receive the second dose of the COVID-19 vaccine through the recitation of the Gomel blessing. This week, among other members of our congregation, Steve Schmidt was privileged to receive his second COVID vaccination and volunteered to say the Gomel blessing on all of our behalfs. So Steve's going to come up. You can find the Gomel blessing on page 402, so that you can also say the congregational response. Steve is saying this blessing for himself and also in recognition of all of those in our congregation who have experienced this. And I just want to say one final thing, which is expressing gratitude for those of us who have been privileged to receive the second vaccine is also a way of hoping that that will come to everybody. There are folks, especially folks who have pre-existing conditions but not reached the age of 65, who have been struggling mightily to get access to the vaccine. The vaccination rollout has been largely by age and by profession, and if you don't hit the age or the profession, even if you really should be getting a vaccine, you might not have gotten it yet. And I want to acknowledge that every person who gets the vaccination makes everybody safer, and that there is real frustration and pain on the part of those of us who have yet been unable to receive the vaccination. It is my hope that by expressing this moment of gratitude, it isn't heightening people's sense of frustration, but is helping to create a vision for a world where we are all beyond this pandemic and able to once again connect in the ways to which we used to be accustomed. But I get it. I really do get it. And I want to acknowledge that there are multiple ways of feeling about this moment. Oh, page 402.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, hagomel l'chayavim tovot, shegamalani kol tov.
Amen. Mi shegmalcha kol tuv, hu yigmalcha kol tuv sela. May the one who has been gracious to you continue to favor all of us with all that is good, and let us say, Amen. The ark is now open for the healing blessing as we rise. Mi shebeirach avotenu mikor habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing. And let us say, Amen. Misha beirach avotenu Avraham Yitzchak v'Yaakov, Sarah Rivka Rachel v'Leah, v'yivarech v'yirpetach olim. Et Shai Aviad ben Balfura, Vet Fegalea bat Minsasura, Vet Shalom ben Chaya, Vet Rochel bat Avram, V'yet Andrew Francis Parisi, Vet Yudit bat Reuven Verezel, V'yet Sharona Nechama bat Reuven Verezel, V'yet Gabriel Mordechai ben Pesi, Vet Omari Gray, Vet Chaya bat Devorah, Vet Leah bat Devorah, Vet Yakira bat Devorah, Vet Blumo bat Gittel, Vet Dina bat Fegula, Vet Eliza bat Dina, Vet Akiva ben Gittel, Vet Miriam bat Malka, Vet Eliyahu ben Malka, Vet Bracha bat Batya, Vet Miriam bat Sarah, Vet Menachem Mendel ben Zipporah, Vet Gershom ben Leah, Vet Robert Borshwitz, Vet Yoreh bat Avram Vesara, Vet Kyle Scheffler, Vet Cecilia Lynn, Vet Michal Ruth bat Tova, Vet Linda Perlstein, Vet Robert Perlstein, Vet Michael Roberts, Vet Eric Hurst, Vet Riva Bela bat Reza, Vet Sima Freda bat Chana Yenta, Vet Chana Sora bat Susha Nechama, Vet kol akulim b'gilak dashad zot hakadosh baruch hu yimalei rachmim aleihem lachzikam l'rapotam yishlach lahem meira refuah shema min hashamayim רפואת הנפש, רפואת הגוף לכל איבריהם בגדיהם בתוך שאר כל ישראל והעולם, וחזק ידידי העוסקים בצורכיהם שבתים יעזוק, והרפואה קרובה לבוא, השתבח עליו בזמן קריב ונאמר אמן. מי שבירך אמותינו, מקור הברכה לאבותינו. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. Dan, if you can bring the other Torah over, we will continue standing for Hatzi Kaddish. Yitkada v'yitkada shemei Rabba ve'amad yirakirtei ve'amlich malchutei ve'chayechon u'vyomechon u'chayei dechol beit Yisrael b'agalam u'bizman kariv himeru Amen. Yehi shmei Rabba mevarach Le'alam le'almei almaya yitbarach V'ishtabach v'ipar v'tomam v'naseh v'tadar v'dalai v'dalal shmei d'kudesha b'richu Le'ila min kol berchata v'shirata tushbachata v'nechmata Tamiran be'alma v'imeru Amen. You may be seated. Oh, yeah, bring that back. Now you may be seated as we continue with the Maftir reading, which can be found on page 1135, page 1135 from the book of Deuteronomy, the end of Parashat Ki Teitzei, verse 17 at the very bottom of page 1135. The commandment here is to remember to blot out the memory of the Amalekites. We read this passage from Deuteronomy, then we read the passage for the Haftarah. We'll be reading a passage from 1 Samuel, which deals with the war against the Amalekites from in the time of King Shaul, King Saul, the first king of Israel. And then we finally will read the passage of the war with Amalek on Purim morning, the one that's from Exodus right after the crossing of the Sea of Reeds. That is the Torah reading for Purim morning, which is this Friday. Join us for the Purim morning service on Friday morning at 7:15. Ta'amod Orit Bat Yosef Shoshana Tzemach Maftira Kriyat Haftarah, the page 1135.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Moed.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Vaed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol hamim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Zachor et asher asa lecha Amalek b'deret b'tzeichem miMitzrayim asher koracha b'derech v'yizanev b'cha kol hanechesh alim acharecha v'yata oyef v'yogea v'lo yirei Elohim v'haya v'haniach Adonai Elohecha lecha Mikol oivecha misaviv Ba'aretz asher Adonai Elohecha Noten lecha nachala l'rishta Timche et zeicher Amalek Mitachat hashamayim lo tishkach.
Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. You can find the Haftarah for Shabbat Zachor on page 1281. Page 1281. The Haftarah is drawn from the book of Samuel. It is the story of Saul's war with Amalek and his decision to destroy all of the weak parts of the Amalekite kingdom, but to leave alive the Amalekite king, the most powerful member of Amalek. That king's name was Agag. Shmuel and God are extremely upset that Saul did this. They say it's because Saul didn't follow the word of God. God doesn't want your sacrifices. God wants your obedience. And that's what Samuel says. I think that there's a lot to this idea that what the real sin that Saul does here is that Saul does the same thing that Amalek did. Right? We're upset about Amalek because Amalek attacked the back of the column, the women and the children, the elderly and the infirm, the weakest members of the Israelite society in the column of the children of Israel as they were leaving Egypt. Amalek attacked the back. That's what the books of Exodus and Deuteronomy tell us. So too, Saul destroyed the weaker members of society, but left the king alive. I think one of the messages of Purim is that we find the Amalekite impulse in each of ourselves. Right? Saul found the Amalekite impulse even in himself, and wasn't able to blot out Amalek. Oh, we're going to put this Torah right here on the holder, and after Dan wipes down the shulchan, Orit will chant for us. You can follow along with Orit on page 1281. We'll put them in the ark later.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar b'nevim tovim v'ratzah b'divreihem hanemarim b'emet. Baruch atah Adonai habocher b'torah u'Moshe avdo V'Yisrael hamo u'v'nviei ha'emet v'tzedek. V'yomer Shmuel Shaul oti shalach Adonai lemishmachacha lemelech alamo al Yisrael v'yata shema lekol divrei Adonai. Ko amar Adonai Yisrael, Asher Sam Lo B'derech Beloto Mimitzrayim, Ata Lech Hakita Et Amalek, V'Hachramtem Et Kol Asher Lo, V'Lo Tamcho Alav, V'Hamita Ish Adisha Me'oleh V'Ad Yonik Mishor V'Ad Sheh Migama V'Ad Chamor, V'Yishma Shahu Et Ha'am, V'Yifked B'Talayim 200,000 Ragli, V'Aser Alafim Et Ish Yehuda, Vayavo Shaul Et Ir Amalek, Vayarev Ben Nachal, Vayomer Shaul El Hekeni, Lechu Tziru Redu Mitoch Amaleki, Penos Ephraimo Ve'ata Asita Chesed Im Kol B'nei Yisrael Be'alotam Mimitzrayim Vayasar Kinei Mitoch Amalek, Vayach Shaul Et Amalek, V'Chavila Be'ochashur Asher Al Pnei Mitzrayim, Vayitfosh Et Agag Melech Amalek, Chai V'et Koham Acherim Lifi Cherev, Vayamcho Shaul Be'am Et Agag, Ve'amatav Hatzon, Ve'habakar Ve'hamishnim, Ve'al-Kakarim Ve'al-Kohatov, Ve'lo Avu Acharimam, Ve'al-Kol Hamlacha Nim Siva Ve'nameis Hoto Hecherimu, Vayehi Devar Adonai El Shmuel Lemor, Nichamti Ki Himlachti Et Shaul V'Melech Ki Shav Me'acharai Ve'kol Davrai Lo Hekim, Vayichar L'Shmuel Vayizachek El Shaul Kol Halayla, Vayaskem Shemuel Likrat Shaul Baboker, Vayugat L'Shmuel Lemor, Vashaul Achmar La V'hinei Matziv Lo Yad, Vayisav Yavor Vayered HaGilgal, Vayavo Shmuel El Shaul, Vayomer Lo Shaul, Baruch Atah Adonai Hakimoti Et Devar Adonai, Vayomer Shmuel Umeh Kol Hatzon Hazeh Ba'oznai, Ve'kol Baboker Asher Anochi Shomea, Vayomer Shaul Et Amaleki Havium, Asher Hama Hemetav Hatzon Ve'habakar, Leman Zevoach Adonai Elohai, Ve'et Hayoter Hechramnu, Vayomer Shmuel Shaul Cheref Ve'agid Alecha Et Asher Diber Adonai Elai Adonai tabenecha rosh Shivtei Yisrael atah Yishmachecha Adonai lemelech al Yisrael Vayishlachecha Adonai bedar vayomer lech becharmanet Achramitah et hachatim et Amalek v'nichlamtah bo ad kalotam otam v'lama lo shamata b'kol Adonai v'tahat et shalal etash hara b'nei Adonai Vayomer Shaul et Shmuel Asher Shamati B'kol Adonai Va'elech B'derech Asher Shalachani Adonai Ve'avi et Agag Melech Amalek Ve'et Amalek Acheramti Vayikach etam v'hashalal zon uvakar reshit hacherem lizvah Adonai Elohai b'Gilgal vayomer Shmuel hachafetz Adonai be'olot uzvachim Kishma b'kol Adonai v'hinei shemoha mizerech tov lehakshiv mechabelim ki chatat kesem meri ve'aven utrafim hapitzar yan Ma'asta et devar Adonai vayim ascha mimelech vayomer Shaul el Shmuel chatati ki avarti et pi Adonai ve'at devarecha ki areti et aham ve'ashma b'kolam ve'atah Shana et chatati b'shuvimi ve'ashachaveh l'Adonai Vayomer Shmuel el Shaul lo ashuv imach ki ma'asta et devar Adonai vayim ascha Adonai mehiyo melech al Yisrael vayisov Shmuel lalechet vayachazik pinchaf me'ilo vayikra vayomer elav Shmuel kara Adonai emachel lechut Yisrael me'alecha hayom utnana lere'echa tov mimecha ve'gam netzach Yisrael lo yishaker ve'lo yinachem ki lo Adam lehinachem vayomer chatati atah kadbenina neged ziknei hami v'neged Yisrael v'shuvimi v'hishtachaveti Adonai Elohayich vayashav Shmuel acharei Shaul vayishtachavu Shaul l'Adonai Vayomer Shmuel, Hagishu Elai et Agag, Melech Amalek, Vayelech Elav, Agag, Madanot, Vayomer Agag, Achen, Sar Mar Hamavet. Vayomer Shmuel, Kasher Shikah Nashim, Harbecha, Kentishka Minashim, Imecha. Vayisaf Shmuel et Agag, Lifnei Adonai, Bagilgal. Vayelech Shmuel, Haramata, Vishaul, Ala Beito, Givat Shaul. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, Tzur kol olamim, Tzadik b'chol dorot, HaNe'eman, HaOmer v'Yoseh, HaMedaber Mekayim, Shekol devarav emet v'tzedek. Ne'eman atahu Adonai Eloheinu, v'ne'emanim tivarecha, v'divarecha midivarecha, achor lo yashuv rekam, ki el melech ne'eman b'rachaman atah. Baruch atah Adonai, ha'ne'eman b'chol devarav.
Amen.
Rachem al Tzion, ki beit chayenu, v'la'avut nefesh toshia, b'mehera b'yameinu. Baruch atah Adonai, mesameh Tzion b'baneha.
Amen.
Samchenu Adonai Eloheinu, b'Eliyahu hanavi avdecha, u'malchu beit David meshichecha, b'mehera yavo, v'yagel libeinu, al kiso lo yesh ezor, v'lo yinchalu od acherim mekivodeho, ki b'shem kodsha nishbata lo, shelo yifren ero le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai, Magen David.
Amen.
Al HaTorah, v'al Avodah, v'al Hamim, v'al Yom HaShabbat hazeh, shenatata lanu Adonai Eloheinu, likdusha limnucha, lichavod ultifaret. Al HaKol Adonai Eloheinu, אנחנו מודים לך ומברכים אותך, יתברך שמך בפי כל חי, תמיד לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני, מקדש השבת.
Amen. Yasher koach. Yasher koach to Orit for chanting the Haftarah, one of my favorites. And also Yasher koach to Dan for chanting the Torah and for reading for us the passage from Deuteronomy, which is a mitzvah to hear for Shabbat, for Parashat Zachor. And also Yasher koach to Steve for leading Shacharit. We continue with our service now with the blessings we seek, that you can follow along with. Source of blessing, our guardian of hope, bless, we pray, all who are dear to us. Watch over them with your protecting love. Bless the people of this congregation, grant them health of body and serenity of spirit, guide them on the path of Torah and good deed. Bless our country, our leaders, and our fellow citizens. Help keep us faithful to our heritage of freedom and justice. Help us banish all suffering and strife. Bless our brothers and sisters in the land of Israel. Prosper the work of their hands and minds. Strengthen them and grant them peace. Bless our fellow Jews wherever they may dwell. Comfort those who are in distress. Deliver them speedily from darkness to light. Bless all your children in every land and community. Unite them in understanding and mutual happiness. Hasten the day when all can rejoice in a world of peace. We continue now with Ashrei. Aryeh and Daniel are going to lead us in Ashrei, page 420.
Ashrei Yoshrei Veitecha Oyahalu Hasela.
Ashrei ha'am shekachalo, Ashrei
Tila le'lavid aromim chalohai hamelech v'barachashim chalelam va'et. Gadol Adonai mula meyod v'ligdu ato ein heker.
Dor le'dor yishabach ma'asecha uguratecha yagidu.
Hadar kevod hodecha v'divrei nivotecha asicha.
Vezuz naratecha yomeru gdulatcha safrena.
Zecher rav tuv chayaviyu v'tzidka chayerneinu.
Hanu v'rachum Adonai erech hapayim ugdal chased.
Tov Adonai la kol v'rachamav al kol ma'asav.
Yodu Adonai kol ma'asecha v'chasidecha yivarchucha.
Kevod malchudecha yomeru uguradecha yidaberu.
Leoti alifnei Adam kurotav ukvod hadar malchut.
Malchudecha malchut kol olamim u'memshadecha b'chol dor v'dor.
Somech Adonai lechol anochim v'zokev lechol hakufi.
Einei kol elecha yesaberu ve'ata noten lahem et oklam beito.
Potech et yadecha u'masbiya lechol chayretzah.
Tzadik Adonai b'chol derachav v'chasid b'chol ma'asav.
Karov Adonai lechol korav lechol asher yikra'u be'emet.
Ritzon yiriyav yaseh v'et shematam yishma v'yoshiyem.
Shomer Adonai kol ohabav v'et kol harishayim yashmi.
Tehillat Adonai yedaber pi v'varech kol basar shem kodshel elam va'ed.
V'anachu nevarech yamei ata v'yad olam hallelujah. Murray's going to lead us in the service for returning the Torah to the Ark. If you'd like, I can take care of the on the bima part. All right. So we'll continue on page 422. Please rise.
Hallelujah, Shem Adonai, Kenes Gav Shmo Levado, Odo Alet V'Shamayim, Vayarem Kerem Le'amo, Tihila Lechol Chasdav, Livnei Yisrael, Hallelujah. Bezmol David, Adonai Ybarech et Amo v'shalom uvnucho yoma. Page 426. Ki lekach tov natati lachem torati al tazovu. Etz Chaimi Lama Chazikim Ba V'Tom Cheha Meusha Deracheha Dachenoam V'chol
נתיבותיך, שחום השיבנו אדוני אליך ונשובה חדש חדש ימינו חדש ימינו כקדם.
Shabbat Shalom. You may be seated. When Edith Kleiman came to me a few weeks ago and asked if it was possible for us to do a Hadassah Shabbat on Shabbat morning, the Shabbat before Purim, I said, oh, that would be great. After all, Esther's Hebrew name was Hadassah. And Edith said, yeah, I'm pretty sure that's why they chose that week. And I said, so what would that look like exactly? And we ended up deciding that it would look like me giving a Dvar Torah that honored Hadassah. And then I was really, really pleased that the Reut Faith Community Nursing Healthy Living Group was able to also honor Hadassah Shabbat this week by bringing in a lifetime member of Hadassah to do a teaching about women's health. And if you want to watch that program, it is available on our website. Dr. Cheryl Spitzer-Resnick, who happens to also be related to me, came and gave a really, really terrific teaching, which is well worth the time. So I'd like to share some words about Purim and connected to this week's Torah portion in honor of Hadassah. And I'll just say that for myself, I'm from a long family of participation in Hadassah. I was gifted with a lifetime, yeah, but not the full membership, the lifetime associate membership when I was born. The family lore is that when Henrietta Zold, who founded Hadassah, came to St. Louis, Missouri, my Nana Lillian Zabrak gave her a piece of her mind, and I don't know exactly what she said. The family lore didn't preserve that, but apparently my Nana had some thoughts about how this organization was going, and gave Henrietta Zold and the 1-2. Perhaps one of the things that she thought about when she was speaking truth to power is the importance in all of our communal institutions of being mibayit umichutz, mibayit umichutz tetzapenu. If you turn to page 487, we find the laws of the ark of acacia wood. It says, they shall make an ark of acacia wood 2.5 cubits long, and a cubit and a half wide, and a cubit and a half high. Overlay the ark with pure gold, overlay it inside and out, and make upon it gold molding round about. V'tzipita uto zahav tahor mibayit umichutz titzapenu. You want to have this ark of acacia wood encased in a gold, both the inside and the outside. And the rabbis understand this to be a metaphor for what it means to have good leadership and what it means to be a be a person of integrity. You should be a person where you're tocho kivaro, where your inside is like your outside. You should be a person where if you've got gold on the outside, you should have gold on the inside, and you should have something strong and vital that comes from that comes from the natural world that's getting the wood is the vitality of your personhood. But if you are not also having the most integrity, if your gold is not inside and out, then there's a problem. So, how does this connect to Purim? The word Megillat Esther, the scroll of Esther. Now, this is a Hebrew pun, right? I am aware of the fact that the word Megillah, the root of it is Gimel Lamed Lamed, from the word liglol, which means to roll, just like our word Galila means to roll up the Torah. Okay, so that's what the true shoresh, the true root of the word Megillah is. But there's another word that the root is Gimel Lamed Hey, Migaleh, Ligaleh, which means to be revealed or to uncover, to discover. And in fact, right, that when it's talking about the covering of this ark with gold, right, we're using that word Ligaleh to cover. And it also has the same shoresh as the word galut, meaning exile. Okay? So there's something about the revealed, something about what is seen, and also something about this idea of exile. And then the word Esther. Now, what does Esther mean? Of course, on one level, Esther means Ishtar, meaning the Babylonian goddess Astarte. Okay, and it is fascinating that the main characters of our Purim story are named after the Babylonian gods Ishtar and Marduk. Okay, so Mordechai is Marduk, Esther is Ishtar. So we've got that level of, okay, they're playing with, the author of the scroll of Esther here is playing with this paradigm of trying to critique so these are characters who are fully exiled, so much so that they have taken on themselves fully Babylonian names. I mean, you might imagine for our own sort of a world if the main characters of a Jewish story were named Christopher and Mary, right? Like it's that kind of level of assimilation, right? These characters, Esther and Mordecai, are not passionate, shul-going Jews of the exile. These are assimilated folks. Okay, so that's one aspect. Of course, Esther also comes from the Hebrew word lehastir, meaning to hide, to be hidden. And so we've got the word Megillah, that means to reveal or to be revealed, and the word Esther, hastir, right, the idea of hiddenness. So Megillat Esther sort of means the revealed hidden. And I think it really speaks to this idea of the mibayit u'michutz titzapenu, that the gold should be both on the inside and the outside. Both the hidden parts of yourself and the revealed parts of yourself have to be acting in the same way, have to be acting with integrity. God is supposed to be the reason why we're building the Mishkan in this week's Torah portion. right? We build this physical space so that God can come into our space and live among us and be dwelling within us. Over the last year, and I spoke about this on Rosh Hashanah, over the last year, we've learned how to find Mishkan, Mikdash Me'at. We've learned how to find small holinesses, sanctuaries in our own homes. The ability to connect to pray, to be in relationship with God, not just in the synagogue, not just in the sanctuary, but also in our own homes. And that's been an incredibly powerful and important piece of learning. If we can take a small portion of that with us as we move into the next phase of reopening, the next phase of figuring out what it means to be a community, a Jewish community, hopefully we'll take some of that idea that we can have Jewish experiences anywhere. We can do prayer at home. We can get up and come to a 7:15 a.m. Zoom Shacharit service and put on our tefillin and be a part of a service, even in our own guest bedroom or even in our own dining room. Like, that is possible to do that. This goes back to the idea of the hidden and the revealed. What parts of our relationship with God are in public, and what parts are hidden in our personal houses? Heschel talked about the importance of thinking about Shabbat as a mikdash in zman, a sanctuary in time. Just as we are describing building the physical, this physical space for God, so too each week we construct a time for God, a time for spirituality, a time for connecting with something that is beyond us, a time for connecting with something which is within us, a time for trying to make sure that our lives have integrity, that our inside and our outside are golden. And we don't always have the time for that, but on Shabbat, we create a sanctuary where we are focused on doing that. And in creating that sanctuary, we allow ourselves the possibility of letting the divine in, the possibility of having a God that is in relationship with us, that God is v'shachanti betocham, dwelling within us, dwelling among us. Purim, the scroll of Esther, is a scroll in which God's name appears not once. There are only two books of the Bible where that is the case, and one of them is Megillat Esther. And in truth, there is something really powerful about that, because Esther's name means hidden, as we talked about. Haster, Astir, Panai. God says, I will surely hide my face. And that's the world in which we live. We live in a world in which God's presence is not easily felt. A world in which we do not see a cloud of glory or a pillar of fire. We do not see the sea splitting, or we do not experience the revelation in thunder and lightning on a mountaintop. We experience God in much more hidden ways. And so we think about the revealed and the hidden, the gold within and the gold without, the possibility of bringing God into the world, right? Mordecai says to Esther in chapter 4 of the scroll, who knows but that this moment was created so that you are the only person who can make a difference? And that was so powerful for Esther, right? That she stands up and protects the Jewish people, even though, right? She is not a practicing Jew. But Esther, of course, does have a hidden name. She has the revealed name, which is Esther, meaning hidden. But she also has a hidden name, Hadassah. And Hadassah means myrtle. It is a connection to the land of Israel. In fact, the other book that doesn't, another book in the Torah that isn't divine focus is Shir HaShirim, the Song of Songs. And that book also describes Hadass, describes the myrtle, the landscape of the land of Israel. So Esther's hidden name is a deeply rooted, connected name to her Jewish identity. How many of us have a name that we go by in the outside world and a name that we're called up to the Torah here that are different? So it was with Esther, with Hadassah. And so I think Henrietta Zold was the kind of person who was Toho Kivaro. She was a person of integrity. Her inside and her outside were gold. I certainly know that about my grandmother, Lillian Zabrak. And I think that the mission of Hadassah and the mission of the Jewish people, the mission of Zionism, the mission of connection to the land, is a mission which is about striving ever more for that kind of sense of integrity, where the hidden and the revealed mingle, where there is both gold inside and gold outside, where we look at the ark and we're able to know that that is also beautiful within. So it's my hope as we celebrate this Hadassah Shabbat, as we go forward into this week of Purim, that we think about our own striving for integrity, our own striving for that sense of connection, that sense of the hidden and the revealed, and that I hope that we're able to find room for the divine in our lives. Shabbat Shalom. We continue with the Musaf service on page 428.
Vitkara, Vitkara, Shmer Rabba.
Amen.
Amad v'achotei v'amlich machotei b'chayechon u'yomech v'chayechol bein Yisrael b'agala u'bizman karim v'imru.
Amen. Yesh me Rabba mevarach le'alam al me'almaya.
יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר את רומם ויתנשא ויתהודה ויתהלל ויתהלל שמי דקודשה ולמה כל ברכתה ושירתה
תושבחתה ונחמתה תמירן ועלמה ואימרו. Amen. We begin with Murray together on page 430. After the Kiddushah, we continue with the individual whispered Amidah for Musaf on Shabbat.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו אלוהי אבותינו אלוהי אברהם אלוהי יצחק אלוהי יעקב אלוהי שרה אלוהי רבקה אלוהי רחל אלוהי לאה האל הגדול הגיבור והנורא אל העליון גומל חסדים טובים וקונה הכל וזוכר זה ומביא דורר לבני בניהם למען שמו באהבה מלך עוזר ופוקד ומשה עומד ברוך אתה אדוני מגן אברהם ופוקד שרה אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני מחיימת ומטרה וראשית משיב הרוח ומוריד הכתר, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיה מתים רחמים רבים, צומח נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשפי אהבה. עמיחם תבע גבורה, מדום אלה מלך מנהיג ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמנת לחיות מתים. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי המתים. נרצך ונקדשך כזו ספר קודש, המקדשים שמך בקודש, ככתוב על יד נביאך, וקרא זה אל סבי העמה.
קדוש, 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 אדוני צבאות, בכל הארץ
קדוש, 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 אדוני צבאות, מלוך כל הארץ כבודו. כבודו מלא עולם, ושדיו שונים זה לזה, ויהי מקום כבודו. לעומתם ברוך יאמרו. ברוך כבוד אדוני במקומו, במקומו הוא יפן ברחמים, ויחון עם המייחדים שמו. ערב הבוקר וכל יום תמיד, פעמיים באהבה, שמע אומרים. שמע ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד, ואלוהינו הוא אבינו, הוא מלכנו, הוא מושיענו, והוא ישמיענו ברחמיו, שיהיה כל חי, והוא ישמיענו ברחמיו, שנתליה כל חי. להיות לכני, להיות לכם, אני אדוני אלוהים, ודברי קודשך כתוב לאמור. מלך אדוני לעולם אלייך ציון, לדור ודור, הללויה. לדור ודור נגיד גודלך, ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש, בשבחך אלוהינו מפינו לאמוש לעולם ועד. כי המלך גדול וקדוש אתה. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
If you haven't completed your individual whispered Amidah, please continue davening. We join together for Kaddish Shalem, page 506. Amen. Gedal v'gedash Shmei Rabbah. Ve'amadi b'akirtei v'yamlich ma'achutei b'chayei chonu v'mechonu v'chayei l'chol beit Yisrael b'agalav v'zman karivim Amen. Yehi Shmei Rabbah v'marach le'olam l'meil maya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yifar v'yishmam v'yinaseh v'yidadar v'yidaleh v'yidaleh Shmei Negudisha b'richu. Leila min kol b'kadav v'shiradah v'yifukadav v'nechmatad amiron be'amavim Amen. Yitgabat odel v'andon l'chol Yisrael kodam avon v'yishmaya Amen. Yesh Lamarabah min Shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'kol Yisrael v'Amen. Oseh shalom v'imravav hu yaseh shalom aleinu v'kol Yisrael v'Amen. Yasher Koach to Murray for leading us in Musaf, and to everybody who participated in the service this morning, especially to Dan for reading Torah, and Orit for reading the Haftarah, and to Steve for leading us in Shacharit. A happy birthday to Rochelle Brilliant, Elliot Middleton, Tamara Smuckler, and Rachel Naparstek, who are celebrating their birthday this week, and a mazel tov to Bella and Eugene Brusselowski on the occasion of their anniversary, which is today. We continue, we rise now for Aleinu, page 510. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, l'ateit gedula liotzer breshit, shelo asanu kegoyei haratzot, velo asanu k'mishpachot ha'adamah, shelo asanu kahem, v'aleinu k'kol ha'amanah, v'anachnu korim u'mishtachavim u'modim, Lifnei melech malchei hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Shehu noten shamayim liyosed haaretz, Moshav yikaro b'shamayim imal, Ushchinatu zo, Begavei meromim, Hu Eloheinu einod, Hem et malkeinu efes ulato, kakatu v'torato, v'yadatayom mehashivoto elevavecha. Ki Adonai hu Elohim, b'shamayim imal, v'al haaretz mitachat. Einod, hakei nekavel echadnem. Hakatu b'toratecha, Adonai imloch le'olam va'ed, v'nemar, v'haya Adonai, v'melech al kol haaretz, v'yom hahu, yeh Adonai echad, hu shemo echad. Congregation acknowledges with sadness the death of Lidmila Luda Borodolina Haviva Luba Bat Yisrael Harita, who passed away this Thursday after she and her husband Michael have been members here for 2 decades. The funeral will be sometime early this week. And I believe the family is choosing to do Shiva privately. But we wish them deep condolences on the loss. We also remember with love those who have gone to their eternal rest: Meir Ben Amoth, Harvey Sharfstein, Rose Simon, Helen Friedman, Bernard Horwitz, Faye Horowitz, David Reich, Mildred Shapiro, Karen Fink, Myrna Margolin, Judith Wolin, Paul Cloutier, Celia Gauss, Sam Haber, Philip Lefkowitz, Philip Nachnoff, Rose Gelwarg, Reba Sidewater, Vicky Friedman, Bernard Gordon, Rose Kraut, Arthur Stashauer, Gabriel Ishakov, Iskakov, Arthur Merrims, Sam Reich, and Jack Stone. In solemn testimony to the unbroken chain of faith which links one generation of the house of Israel to the next, those who mourn and those who are observing Yartzeit now rise to magnify and sanctify God's name with the words of Kaddish Avelim, Mourner's Kaddish, page 512. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah ve'alma divra kirutei v'yamlich malchutei v'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael ba'agala uvizman kari v'imru amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mevarach le'olam olamei alamaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shmei dekudesha brichu. Leila min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechmata damiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabbah min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Seh shalom imromav, hu yaseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Jackie's going to give some announcements.
Rabbi's Back to Basics class, Introduction to Prayer Book Hebrew for Adults, is tomorrow morning at 9:30. Tomorrow at 1 o'clock is the Masquerade, and you can drive through and pick up your Mishloach Manot, and you can drop off toiletries and food for donations, and cash, of course. Come dressed up, right, Hillary? Come dressed up. Let's see, what else? Jonathan Wiles' art course continues this week. Actually, the final class is this week on Wednesday. And Thursday, of course, Thursday evening is Purim, and there's a whole bunch of different stuff going on for Purim, and I think everybody received an email with all that information in it. And I think that's it. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. I just want to say about Purim, of course, I didn't mention that it's my birthday. I was born on Purim. I don't celebrate usually the 10th of March. Last year, the 10th of March was Purim, which was very convenient that my secular and Hebrew birthdays came together. But most years I celebrate on Purim, so that will be this Friday and Thursday night. Also, I want to invite you all to think about the way in which Purim marks a year since our lives overturned. V'na'afochu, this kind of idea of the overturning of our lives is a theme in Purim. Purim was the last public event that we had together last year before the pandemic. We probably shouldn't have. In retrospect, but it was a beautiful, beautiful celebration, and this Purim will be our first Purim by stream, and then we start a year where it will be our second Passover and our second Shavuot, and there is a spiritual moment that needs to be marked in that, and the Hadar Institute has decided to mark that for the community by doing several programs on Thursday on Tanit Esther, the fast of Esther, to mark the sadness about this year of socially distanced, this year of being socially distanced. So I encourage you to participate in that. The information was in that email with all of the Purim stuff. Also to celebrate with our school and community at 4:30 p.m. on Thursday afternoon. To make sure to visit the webpage to see our the Purim spiel that our Purim spielers have worked really hard on and will be filming tomorrow, and to join for the full Megillah reading on Thursday night and Friday morning. There are so many ways to be involved. For Tots, there's a Purim story time for Tots at 5 p.m. on Wednesday with Rebecca Stashauer, so definitely come to that if you have family, if you have young children or grandchildren who are the right age. Happy to have that be a part of our Purim celebration. So many different ways to celebrate. With that, we'll close our service with Adon Olam, page 514. Adon Olam asher malach b'terem kol yitzir nivra v'yenasa b'chevto kol hazai melech shemo nikra v'yacharei kiflotako levado yimloch nora vehu haya vehu hovem vehu yiyeh b'tifara vehu echad v'yein sheni le'amshilo lehakbira ve'li reishit ve'li tachlit Elohim ve'hamisra ve'hu eli echai go'ali etzorchem li be'yetzara ve'hu nisi humanos li menat kosi be'yom ekra ve'yado afkid ruchi Ve'tishan ve'ayira ve'imruchi geviati Adonai li ve'lo ira. Shabbat Shalom.